Gilgamesh, the Zenobia destroyer, the father of arrows, the breaker of chains. We're gonna talk about his skills, his talent trees, and I'm gonna answer the most important question in details. Is he good for field fighting? Let's find out in this video. Hello everyone and welcome back to another Rise of Kingdom video. My name is Legend Ronnie and today I'm gonna talk about Gilgamesh and I'm gonna talk in details. You probably seen one of my recent videos where I did pair him on my perfect 7 marcher. So that's what I want to detail in this video, and obviously I want to show his talent trees and talk a little bit more in details so you can have a big understanding of why I'm using Gilgamesh in my pairings and why is he good for field fighting. That pretty much answers the questions from the beginning. But anyway, let's get to it. As you all know, like usual, you have to know the basics about commanders. The talents only apply from the primary commanders, but skills work from both. You want to know approximately the cost and everything about commanders. You want to know that equipment only applies from the primary commander and how you should skill up a commander. Well, I do have to say that Gilgamesh as a 5-5-1-1 is good to go, but if you really want to go for Gilgamesh, I would definitely expertise him. Now, where do I recommend, or for who do I recommend Gilgamesh? To be very honest, I would recommend Gilgamesh for a medium high spender type of player, or even higher than that if there is other levels, or you consider being other levels, because there is much better option for field fighting. Because if you're not a medium or a high spender, you're definitely not garrisoning or you're not rallying. So if you're a low spender, you're a free to play, or whichever other levels of spending you have, lower than that, you do not rally or garrison. He's not good for garrison, but I'm just making a reference like on which category of players do you fit in. He is good for field fighting and is working for field fighting, but I would highly recommend it for medium and high spenders, because there is plenty of other archer commanders in the arsenal that you can choose from. Like for example, you have Artemisia, you have Ramses, you have Nebu, you have Tomiris, commanders that can bring you a lot more benefits on the field fighting than Gilgamesh can. But if you are maxing the crystal tech each and every KVK, then Gilgamesh has a very important role on your 7 marches. And I'm gonna explain, because that is the most important part that I have to explain, and that is between him and Cyrus. So when I done my video about the perfect 7 marches, I had to choose between Gilgamesh and Cyrus, and I went with Gilgamesh and I max killed Gilgamesh. And here is the reason. The number one reason is because he is a beast in rallying. Even as a solo rally, Gilgamesh with Nebuchadnezzar, they get positive traits on Zenobia. Zenobia YSS in Seasons of Conquest is still the most used garrison. A lot of players are trying or are using Amanitor, and where is she? Amanitor is over here, and Jadwiga. But the problem is most of the kingdoms, they don't have that many archers. There's so many infantry focused players, and the problem with the calves is that Jadwiga doesn't have any sort of healing. Amanitor doesn't have healing either, so you need to keep swap them. These commanders always need a replacement, and since most of the players are infantry, every kingdom always has a lot more infantry than you can think about, than calves or archers. On the other note, you want to keep your calves in a kingdom and the archers in a kingdom. You want to keep them for rallying, because if you use the same troop for rallying and garrison, then you do have to realize that it will be very soon expended, and then what you're gonna do. On the other hand, Zenobia, I have her maxed with YSS together. If you are using mix of troops, because at some point people stop putting infantry and you'll start seeing siege, calves and archers, but still the majority of the troops is infantry, is still working. While some of the other commanders might not perform at their best using a mix of troops. So my recommendation is to use as much as possible infantry for garrisoning, and then use archers and cavs for rallying. For maybe temporary use, you could use those troops for garrisoning as well if it's really needed, but not for the long term. So going back to Gilgamesh and Cyrus for my 7 perfect marches, because I already had my Artemisia and YSG, I already had that in plan. I already had the Ramses and Tomyris in plan. The only thing that I was missing was a 3rd march. And my plan was to do Cyrus, but that was before Gilgamesh and Amanitor was released. And I was needing Commander for Nebu, because when you check Nebuchadnezzar, which I have it maxed as well, on his 2nd skill you get 30% defense. But on today's field fighting, having a pair of commanders that only gives this like 30% flat defense and that's it is not enough anymore for field fighting. So Nebuchadnezzar with YSG for field fighting, for example, is really good. It does a ton of damage. I mean, I'm using them and I'm seeing them, but the moment they get swarmed, they just go down like, I don't know, like a knife through butter. It's unreal if they get properly swarmed. And by properly swarmed, I'm saying, let's say 15 marches. 15 marches, swarm your Nebu YSG, you won't even have time to react. 3, 4, 5 seconds and that's it, he's done. And what I have noticed when pairing, for example, Gilgamesh, putting Gilgamesh first, Nebu second, for field fighting, it lasts much longer. Artemisia with YSG, again, it lasts much longer. Ramses on its own is very defensive. Ramses with Tomyris or Ramses with other commanders, it lasts much longer. So then I had to do this change, and I had to think about something very defensive for Nebuchadnezzar. And I was looking at Cyrus, and Cyrus would probably fit best the description for field fighting because he does have 2 small AoEs. I like to bring as much AoE as possible on the field fight. He also has a lot of attack and additional damage increase on the target, and then she has small damages, skill damage reduction when he's affecting the target, and he does increase 20% defense. But then it came to the point where I also needed Gilgamesh for rallying. So I was thinking like, why would I want to put Cyrus? It only gives me 20% defense, which I still think is not enough. 20% defense with Nebu 30% defense, and this 20% defense is just temporary. So what's the difference between Cyrus and Nebu, or Nebu and YSG? I didn't see much of a difference since the defense capabilities on the march would have not increased. And Gilgamesh, it made a lot of sense. One, you can rally with Gilgamesh. You have Gilgamesh Nebu. I say that is the best pair for rallying. 2, you get a lot of health, you get all damages. Once the target has 50% of units remaining, health of the enemy reduction with his primary skill. Going further, you have more attack and more archer attack per stack. And then you can inflict blood craving on the target, and you can cause even more damage if the target is healing or if the target is receiving heal. That's also a very high possibility. On top of that, the normal attack damage reduction. And then with the expertise, you get 15% normal attack damage reduction. So you get a 30% health and you get 15% normal attack damage reduction with Gilgamesh. And I have to say, when Gilgamesh and Nebu is being swarmed on the field, they last about 15, 20 seconds, 25 seconds, depending on how many marchers are swarming him. So I can do 2 things. One, I can either let him there, getting swarmed, die for the team, or I also have time to react and retreat, so I don't have that many severely wounded. Now here is the good and the bad. So you can understand and have a better understanding of how I am preparing my marches. When you're fighting on the field, you're not fighting alone. You have your kingdom, you're fighting with your kingdom. You have a murder ball going on, not just your marchers, your 5 marchers, 4 matches, 6, 7 matches, whichever the number it is, you're fighting with your friends. Because this game is a team, right? It's based on playing with others. It's not a solo game. So it makes a difference when one of your matches is melting in 5-6 seconds, or when one of your matches is melting in 20 seconds or 25 seconds. So the more time you can buy while they are trying to kill one of your march, the better it is for not just your other marches, but your other teammates. Because they will be there, they will be also fighting, they will be causing damage to some of the marches. So this is why when I try to do pairings of commanders, I think from a vast numbers of possibilities and reasons why I'm doing or why I'm putting that marches together. So I hope that this makes you understand a little bit more. Now obviously if you want to put, I don't know, Cyrus with Gilgamesh or whichever other archer commander you want to put with Gilgamesh, they will definitely work. You want to put, I even tried Artemisia with Gilgamesh. They also work because you have the 20% defense and health from Artemisia. So I was like, how would it be to have like 50% health, have the 15% normal attack damage reduction and a bunch of attack from Gilgamesh and put Artemisia together as well. It works. It's an okay march, but I say that is a waste for Gilgamesh to be second to Artemisia. Gilgamesh and Ramses, Ramses and Gilgamesh, obviously they work. However you want to pair the archers, they work. Gilgamesh and YSG, also a very nice combination. You want to put El Cid on the field, El Cid and Gilgamesh, that also definitely works. But you have to think about the best utility for the commander. And don't get me wrong, now that we are an El Cid and we are talking about archer commanders, if you don't have a really good legendary and you need an archer pair, El Cid is a very good replacement that you can use for field fighting. He has 20% defense, march speed, and then when you get to 50% troops, you get march speed, damage increase, and with his expertise, you do more damage to infantry plus an extra 5% defense and attack. There's nothing wrong, there's just good stuff that you get from El Cid. 10% chance to do 1000 damage factor, and then with his primary skill, you do another 1000 damage factor and you interrupt their normal attacks for 1 second. This is the only downfall on El Cid that people kind of see, you know, legendary just doing 1000 damage factor. If they would increase this to 1400, then El Cid would be a beast. But right now it only does 1000, so that's kind of his problem. But other than that, El Cid is a fine commander to use if you don't have some of these newish commanders. I used El Cid and YSG for a very, very long time. Now let's go real quick on his talent tree. Now this is the talent tree that I would recommend on Gilgamesh. As you're noticing, is with feral nature. I really like rage. All these commanders, they just do a ton of skill damage. I will always love to empower that as much as I can. The second talent tree is with a little bit of protection. As you see, I went a little bit on conquering. I dropped the feral nature. I put more stats from the archer tree and I went a little bit on the conquering. But my recommendation is going with the feral nature. Commanders that have their damage based on skill damage, I would rather empower them as much as I can with feral nature or with rage restoration. Even that is only a 10% chance, I will still go for it. It's definitely worth it. But I know there are players who don't really enjoy or don't really like the feral nature. So this is another option that you can go with 9% counter-attack damage increase. And another option for non-feral nature believers is this one, where you cut off a little bit of rage restoration from the attack tree. As you notice, the right side of the archer tree is 1 out of 3, and then I took 4% attack on the left side and obviously the counterattack from the conquering, and I went all the way on the archer tree, and then you have rejuvenate and clarity. So this is again a very, very nice talent tree as well. This will probably be the second best that I would recommend for archers, where you have the skill available and the archer. but my recommendation is the first one, going with Feral Nature. To answer one more question in this video, what would be the 2 archer pairings or 3 archer pairings if someone would want to do? I've done a video about that, and I'll make sure to post a card on the top. Go ahead and check it out. But again, Gilgamesh, Nebu, it's a very nice pair. Artemisia YSG, Ramses YSG are also very nice pairs. Even Gilgamesh and YSG, but you know, you can't put YSG in so many places. Someone would say that I wish I had 5 YSGs in my arsenal, but that's just not going to happen anytime soon. Now, I hope you enjoyed this video, and until next time, this is your boy Legend Ronnie signing off. Peace out, yo, and take care. See you on the next one, and stay safe out there, my friends.